Advice for someone thinking about studying abroad. Did you ever feel unsafe? Did you miss normal college life at all? Any tips for planning weekend trips? Did you do school at all during your study abroad? How much did it cost, and do you think it's worth the price? Hey guys, it's Amelia. Welcome to or back to my channel. If you clicked on this video, it's probably because you're considering studying abroad and you have a lot of questions. So let me just make this easy for you. My answer is yes. You should study abroad. Doing a semester abroad was absolutely the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. I feel like I have just grown so much as a person. I could not have enough great things to say about my semester abroad. So yeah, if your number one question is, should I study abroad? There's your answer. That was easy. I'm glad we figured that out together. So now that we've decided that you're studying abroad, right? I'm sure you have some other more specific questions that you would like answered. Well, I have great news for you because so do a lot of my other viewers. I asked you guys to ask me some questions about studying abroad on my Instagram, my TikTok, and here on YouTube. So if you want to be included in any of these videos in the future, you should follow them up here. And if you have any other burning questions that I don't answer in this video, feel free to comment or DM me, and maybe I'll even make a part 2. So yeah, I just want to help you guys out and help you have an amazing experience just like I did. So one of the main questions that I got was, what program did I do? Which is such a fair question because every single study abroad program is different. So I'll tell you a little bit about mine. I studied through my home university, James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and we have our own semester in London program. There were a group of 30 JMU students who all went to London together. We all lived in the same house, and then we all took classes together. So we got close really quick. So I would say that it was kind of a unique study abroad experience because everyone that I spent my day-to-day with went to the same school. Most of the classes that I took went towards one of my majors, which is called Media Arts and Design. So I took some British culture classes, some like advertising classes, film classes. I also took a theater class, which was probably my favorite, and we got to see a West End show every single week. Talk about a once-in-a-lifetime experience. One final aspect of my program was I got to do an internship while I was there. So while I was in London, I was taking classes, but I also interned at a film production company, which was such a cool experience because I really want to work in film and entertainment in some way. So being able to get that real-life industry experience in London was just, I don't know, it was so cool. So yeah, all of those aspects of the program, the fact that the classes were connected to my major and that I could do an international internship, those all contributed to why I chose to do the London study abroad program. Another question that I got is, why did you decide to go as a sophomore versus as a junior? To be so completely honest with you, I could not wait another year. I have known that I wanted to study abroad from the moment that I realized that was even an option. I just love to travel, and I've always said that I want to live in another country at some point in my life. So I was just like, this is the perfect opportunity. Another question is, hey guys, update. I have to relocate because my camera keeps overheating. It is almost 90 degrees, so that makes sense. So I'm gonna go drive back home and we're gonna answer the rest of the questions in my room, which is honestly fine because I'm kind of overheating too. The car is a cute idea in theory, but this just makes more sense. We're back in the AC, things are good. So this next question says, was it hard to make friends or did you go kind of already knowing someone? So I applied for study abroad by myself. Like, I didn't know anyone going into it, but during the semester prior to our abroad semester, my program had some orientation meetings, so I was able to meet a lot of people through that. So I wasn't super close with anyone before the program, but I came back with like a whole bunch of new friends, so that was really cool. This next question made me laugh. It says, did you do school at all during your study abroad? Contrary to what it looked like on my channel, yes I did. I had 4 classes a week and they were kind of long classes because we had a lecture and then we had an outing where we would go around London and experience what we were learning about. So the classes were very time consuming in that regard. In terms of workload, it was definitely a lot lighter than what I would have back at home. So most of my classes were graded on just a few papers and a final exam. So it was definitely a different format to what I'm used to, but yeah, I definitely did school. This next question kind of goes along with that. How was the balance between classes versus other things / free time? I'll like walk you through what a week in my life looks like. If you want to actually see it, you can watch my vlogs. Actually, let me pull this up because I still have it saved. So on Mondays, I would have a lecture from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and then we would have an outing from 10:45 to 1 p.m. Then I would go home, make lunch, get some things done, and then I would have another lecture from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. And then on Mondays around 7:30 or 8ish, we would see a West End show for my theater class. So Mondays were kind of like back-to-back crazy. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I would have my internship from 9 to 5. And then Thursdays would be very similar to my Mondays. So that's what my school week would look like. And then we would have Friday through Sunday off, which was so amazing because that's when I was able to do a lot of my personal traveling. So even though my school days were very busy, it was so nice that we didn't have a lot of busy work. So when I was off for the weekend, I was truly off. If anything, I would write a paper on a train or on a plane or or something, but that was about it. I honestly had more free time in London than I ever did back at JMU. I got two very similar questions that said, how did you maintain a routine while you were in London? And then the other one says, were you able to maintain habits from home like working out and eating well, etc. So during my Mondays through Thursdays, I had a very tight routine. My days were pretty stacked and looked very similar, which definitely helped me out a lot because I love a routine. But my 3-day weekends looked different every single weekend, which was really new for me as a planner schedule lover, but I learned to really embrace it. I was so fortunate that I was able to travel throughout Europe during my semester abroad, and I really tried not to get married to my schedules like I do back at home, and just recognize that this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I could just kind of let things go and do something new and really just like lean into that spontaneity on the weekends. So during the week, yes, I was going to the gym just about every night. I was cooking for myself, just like trying to be really healthy. And then when I was traveling on the weekends, I was eating out, I was having fun, like all of that kind of stuff. Obviously still trying to make healthy choices, but I was like trying fun food and having experiences that I wouldn't have back home. So yeah, I learned to kind of let go of a routine for the weekend. But I will say one great thing about living in London and all of the European cities that I traveled to, everything was so walkable, so I was really easily getting in 15, 20k steps a day. So question says, what was the most challenging part about adjusting to the lifestyle and culture in London? I would say navigating the tube was a little bit of an adjustment because that's how I got to work every day. That's how we traveled to our outings. Something funny that I had to adjust to being in London, and I guess this is the same for any big city. When you're walking down the street or if you're in the tube station, like you are not making eye contact with anybody. You're like staring straight ahead, you're going where you need to go. I had to like work on my RBF a little bit because when I'm at home at JMU, I'm like smiling, I'm seeing who I know, who I don't know. I was not doing that in London at all. Another small thing that I had to adjust to was walking on the left side of the sidewalk. And also, I had to be really careful that I knew which way the cars were coming from when I was crossing the street. Those were some little adjustments that I had to get used to. But honestly, I didn't experience that much culture shock, and I think it did help that I went to an English-speaking country. I got a lot of questions about what you should pack for study abroad, and lucky for you, I made an entire video with my study abroad must-haves, so I will link it down below. I'll also put it up here if you're interested in that. I got a question about water bottles that says, did you bring a water bottle everywhere since European countries don't offer free water? Yeah, I did. And honestly, I don't remember finding water to be that much of an issue. Although one thing that kind of was an issue was finding bathrooms, because there were like no free public bathrooms anywhere I traveled. One particular instance was when I went to Belgium. I tried to just like go into a McDonald's and use the bathroom there, but you had to pay with like real physical money, and I didn't have real physical money on me. So I had to find a public bathroom where I could like just tap my phone. But it took me a really long time to find that bathroom, and it was a lot more expensive than if I just had like a physical euro on me. So there's a little free tip for you. Make sure you research the bathroom situation for wherever you're visiting, because yeah, I never would have thought of that. Okay, I got a lot of questions about traveling to other countries while you're studying abroad. This question says, how did you make traveling around possible and best places to travel? So I am literally the luckiest person in the entire world, and my uncle bought me a Eurail pass. So basically it is a one-time pass that is valid for a specific period of time, and you can use it on any European train. This is what I used to go to Paris, to Brussels, to Brighton, to Amsterdam. I'm just so grateful and thankful for that gift. So even without the Eurail pass, you can just buy tickets on these trains to go to other countries, and it's so convenient, it's so easy to navigate. So yeah, I would highly recommend using the trains to get to other countries while you're abroad. This question says, how far in advance should you plan weekend trips in terms of like flights and arrangements? It definitely depends if you're going with a bigger group or just by yourself. I did 2 bigger group trips. One of them was Paris and the other one was spring break to Mallorca and Barcelona. I want to say we planned those about 2 months in advance, just so we could make sure that we were on the same page with flights, with accommodations, with trains. I feel like with a big group, the sooner the better. But when it came to solo trips that I did, like Brussels and Amsterdam, I planned those like a week in advance. I think Amsterdam was like less than that. Brussels was just a day trip, so I came back home that day. But Amsterdam, I booked the hostel by myself and it was no issue. This question says, any tips for planning weekend trips? I would say definitely do your research on where you're going. I would say come up with a bucket list of some things that you really want to do while you're there, but also leave some space for some spontaneity, because because there's some things that you just like won't know about until you get there, and I feel like some of my best memories are the things that weren't exactly planned. This question says, was doing solo travel hard, or do you have advice for it? I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, but I love solo travel. I think it's so important to do things on your own, and I just think like you can't spend your whole life waiting around for people to want to do things with you. I think at a certain point it's so important to be able to do things independently and enjoy time by yourself. Like, I've always known that I love my alone time. But something about solo travel, I had never felt more confident in my ability to get around. Like, I was just wandering the streets, and if I wanted to go here then I could, if I wanted to go there then I could. So I think my number one advice is not to be scared of doing things by yourself and instead embrace it, because it's such a beautiful and formative experience. And I would say if you are a little bit nervous or unsure of your ability to get around, maybe save your solo trips for the end of your program. That way you can kind of practice traveling when you're in a group. And then by the time you're traveling by yourself, you know how to get around. This question kind of goes along with solo travel, but also just travel in general. Did you ever feel unsafe, especially as a young woman? I was never in a situation where I genuinely feared for my safety, but I would say there were some instances where I just knew that I needed to be hyper aware of my surroundings. I would say when I was in Paris, my friends and I were walking from the train station to our hostel, and that area, like, we had our heads on a swivel. We were always looking around, just because I don't think it was the best area in Paris. But it's important to be aware no matter where you are, especially as a young woman in a city. Just always knowing who's around you. I know London kind of has a problem with people stealing phones. So here's something that they taught us during our study abroad orientation. This is how you're supposed to hold your phone. If you're like checking maps or something, you hold it like this. That way if someone tries to yank it out, like, you have a grip on that thing. And then I would definitely check for travel advisories in the countries that you're going to, like check the State Department website. Be aware of what's going on in the country that you're going to, maybe politically or economically, and just like read up on where you're going. That's not only a safety thing, but also I just think it's respectful to know a little bit about where you're going. There's definitely a stereotype with American study abroad students being just a little naive and ignorant. I don't love that stereotype. I don't really want to fall into it, so there's some advice for that. Okay, this next question says, where was your favorite place to visit? My favorite place to visit was Amsterdam. That has been a dream destination for literally the longest time, and it was a solo trip. I did have a friend that I met there, but the actual traveling part of it was all by myself, and y'all know how I feel about solo travel. We went on a canal tour, we saw the tulips. It was just everything I imagined and more, and I wish that I spent more time there. So if you ever have the chance to go to Amsterdam, you should absolutely do it, especially during the springtime. By the way, I have vlogs of every single trip that I'm mentioning, so check the description because I have an entire study abroad playlist just waiting for you. This next question says, how did you deal with the time difference with friends from home? This was kind of hard, I'm not gonna lie, because it was a 5-hour time difference from home in Virginia, where my school is, where my family lives. And then it was even harder because my best friend lives in Wyoming, and that was like a 7-hour time difference. So I didn't talk on the phone with my family and friends as much as I usually would. We kind of relied on Snap and texting and sending voice memos. That was a big thing that we did. My friends and I would call it our podcast time. So I would wake up in the morning and I would have a couple of podcasts to listen to while I'm getting ready. So that was really sweet. But yeah, communication was just a little bit different, and I'm so lucky that I had friends who understood that and were still willing to keep up with me even if it looked a little bit different. Did you miss normal college life at all? Honestly, yes, I did. I got a lot of FOMO from my friends from home, especially with my sorority and with the club dance team that I'm on, because unfortunately life does have to go on for everyone else even though we're gone, which is crazy. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I did miss JMU a lot, but I also knew that when I was back at JMU next semester that I was gonna miss London as well. So I was just trying to live in the moment and just be so grateful that I had a place that I loved so much that I missed it. I know that a lot of people will do a summer study abroad or a spring break study abroad that's a little bit shorter, but I just knew that I wanted to be abroad for as long as I could, and London really began to feel like home. And I don't think that I would have felt that way if I was there for a shorter period of time, if that makes sense. This question says, did you have any fears or hesitations before going abroad to study? If so, how did you overcome them? I think my biggest fear when going abroad was that something bad was going to happen at home and that I would be too far away. And if I'm gonna be so honest with you, a lot of big things did happen at home while I was gone, good and bad, but I just think that you can't be so paralyzed by the fear of what might happen and then miss out on crazy once-in-a-lifetime opportunities like study abroad. I think being abroad and being disconnected from things happening at home allowed me to realize that two things can be true at once. I can love the life that I have and also miss what's going on at home. But that's just a part of life. That's just a part of maturing and growing up. So I just learned to embrace everything that I was feeling. Oh, another thing that I can't believe I forgot to mention when I was talking about routines, but this is something that helped me to really feel connected to being back home. My faith is so important to me. It's literally the number one thing in my life. So I was kind of nervous about how study abroad was going to impact my faith because I wasn't exactly plugged into a community there. I'm so grateful that I was able to go to church every single Sunday. I think there were maybe 1 or 2 times that I missed. That really helped me to feel connected to being back home. I loved the church that I went to in London. It was called St. Patrick's and it was in the middle of Soho. And then I also loved being able to go to these beautiful churches when I was traveling. I went to a really pretty church when I was in Scotland, and then in Mallorca I went to mass at literally the most beautiful cathedral I've ever seen. So yeah, I was a little nervous about how being away would impact my faith, but I really tried to prioritize it and I ended up being okay and getting some really incredible experiences out of it. How much did it cost and do you think it's worth the price? So I'm just going to read to you what it says on the JMU website for my specific program. The total in-state tuition for London study abroad is $18,753. I am very aware that that is kind of a crazy number, but everyone's situation is different when it comes to scholarships and financial aid. There are a lot of things that impact how much you pay, how you pay for it, and I completely recognized how blessed and how privileged I am to be able to even consider this as an option. So because of that, I don't think it's fair of me to say if it's worth it for you, but I will say that this is such an invaluable experience and absolutely the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. This next question also has to do with money. It says how to budget while you're there. So again, this is something that's going to be different for everybody, but what I did is I planned a couple of big trips up front. So I planned spring break and I planned Paris with some of my friends, and then with the money I had left over, I budgeted weekly for groceries, for going out, for other trips that I wanted to go on. So that's kind of what I did for that. And then this next question I think is the perfect one to end on. Advice for someone thinking about studying abroad. My advice is to consider when you're ever going to have an opportunity like this again. Like, when is the next time in your life you're going to be able to pick up and move to another country for just a few months, take different classes, meet brand new people from all over the world, maybe even improve on a new language. I just think there is no better time in your life than now to do something like this. So yeah, in my very unbiased opinion, I say just go for it. Okay, those are all of the questions that I got about study abroad. If there's anything that I didn't cover, feel free to comment down below. If you're watching this in preparation for your study abroad program, please let me know where you're going because I'm so curious and I'm so jealous that you're just starting out. Like, I would give anything to go back to London. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Bye!